RBI and the Union of India. I'm Priyanka Chakraborty.
Today is Monday, March 9, 2026, and in just 3 days, Thursday, March 12th, there is a pivotal legal clash set to take place, a battle over financial dignity for retired bankers. And the context here is just incredibly timely.
So, as we inexorably approach March 12th, bank retires on social media, seized by what appears to be the final hearing in the MC Singla case, fall into two distinct camps.
The first camp sees 12th March 2026 as the arrival of a new dawn for retirees, while the other camp sees it as a day of reckoning for anti-updation antagonists, notably IBA, DFS, and unions disinterested in their 20-plus year struggle.
They're attempting to mobilize retirees, challenge union leadership, and frame this upcoming Supreme Court hearing as an absolute make or break moment. We're talking about 8 lakh retirees here.
For nearly 2 decades, MC Singla was stymied in court by respondents delaying tactics and endless judicial postponements. But on 12 March, the registry of the Supreme Court has finally listed this case for a full day of hearing.
So, bank retirees are framing this not just as another routine day in court, but as an unprecedented, perhaps final opportunity to resolve this systemic injustice that's left an entire generation of retirees in financial limbo.
The first camp, the one that described March 12th as a new dawn, grounds the entire argument in the human element. It explicitly highlights the demographic at the absolute center of this fight.
We're talking about senior citizens, people who are age 65, 70, 75, or well into their 80s.
These are individuals who dedicated the prime years of their lives, essentially the entirety of their working life, to building and strengthening the PSB system in India.
And to support those seniors, retirees rely heavily on a very specific foundational legal philosophy. They argue that within Indian jurisprudence, a fundamental principle has been established regarding how a society must view retirement funds.
The retirees insist that a pension is not some form of governmental benevolence or a polite gift handed down by a gracious employer. Instead, they argue it is an earned right.
Yes, it is a direct, legally binding result of long dedicated years of service, not a parting gift like a gold watch or a bonus at the end of a career.
Right? But the jurisprudence cited here shifts that perspective entirely. It defines a pension as deferred compensation.
That distinction completely changes how you view a frozen pension fund. Because if a pension is deferred compensation, failing to adjust it is basically retroactively cutting someone's pay.
The retirees use a fantastic analogy to explain this, and I want to spend a moment on it because it really makes this concept of natural justice hit home.
Yeah. Imagine you and a colleague do the exact same job for the exact same banking institution. You both put in the same grueling hours, manage the exact same stress, and handle the same responsibilities.
But because you happen to retire, say 20 years earlier, your compensation is essentially frozen in amber.
Meanwhile, the colleague who is still working or who retires a decade later gets their salary and retirement benefits revised upward to match the modern economy.
Yes, and that disparity captures exactly what the retirees identify as a severe breach of natural justice. It's just unfair.
It is. They argue that when the salaries of currently serving employees are revised from time to time, which is a standard practice to keep up with the cost of living,
Natural justice absolutely demands that the pensions of past retirees must be realistically updated to match. Without that updation, you create a glaring fundamental inequality within the system.
yeah, you end up with a scenario where two individuals who perform the exact same work, served the identical institution, and shared comparable service backgrounds are treated vastly differently in their post retirement years.
Purely based on an arbitrary date on a calendar, an inequality contrary to the foundational principles of the Constitution.
The retirees emphasize the human cost is huge, a crushing emotional and physical toll.
We're talking about people trying to survive on a fixed pension amount that was calculated decades ago.
While trying to navigate a highly dynamic modern economy in 2020s.
A pension from 2005 does not pay for a grocery bill today. Furthermore, they're dealing with increasing healthcare costs, which inevitably skyrocket as you age.
Alongside ongoing social and family responsibilities, the money simply does not stretch the way it was originally intended to when they signed those employment contracts.
Which brings us to a major systemic issue that clearly haunts many retirees.
The agonizing reality of judicial delays.
The retirees use a very evocative, deeply frustrating phrase to describe their experience with the courts. They call it date after date of adjournments.
It paints a picture of 80-year-old super seniors continuously checking the docket, only to find their fate pushed back another 6 months, even as they sadly run out of time eaten up by multifarious adjournments.
It's a heartbreaking prognosis when you visualize it that way, especially for an aging cohort.
Right? Where time is a luxury they just don't have. That is exactly why they are placing the weight of the world on this upcoming March 12th hearing.
Okay, let's pivot to the second camp of retirees because this is where the tone takes a dramatic shift.
Before we examine the second group of retirees, we have a favor to ask you. Please subscribe, it's free to do so.
Furthermore, please clip, comment, and share our podcasts on Facebook and social media platforms. Thank you.
We move from a moral and constitutional plea for dignity into a very sharp, highly defensive counterattack retirees called the anti-updation antagonists.
What's fascinating here is how the retirees directly name and challenge the specific entities pushing back against pension updation. They aren't just fighting a faceless bureaucracy.
Retirees specifically call out leaders, including those within the United Forum of Bank Unions or UFBU, as well as referencing the Indian Banks Association, the IBA.
According to retirees on social media, these union leaders and banking representatives are actively circulating messages claiming that updation would require huge, insurmountable funds that the banks simply cannot afford.
The retirees allege that these claims of impending bankruptcy are being manufactured to sabotage the legal process and to demoralize the pensioners right before their day in court.
A quick reminder, we're only guiding you through latest comments and views on social media. We're not validating the claims, math, or taking sides. We are mapping the debate exactly as retirees are building it.
And the way the retirees respond to that institutional fear is by going straight to the data. They don't just call the union's claims false, they actively build a rigorous mathematical defense.
They provide a step by step breakdown of the exact math to debunk this heavy load argument, using it as the ultimate proof of financial viability.
Could you walk us through the numbers the retirees use to dismantle the union's claims?
Let's break this down because the money is massive. Retirees first look at the pension fund itself, listed at 428,000 crore rupees in March 2024.
Fast forward just 1 year to March 2025, and the retirees state that this fund grew to 457,000 crore rupees.
So the principal amount sitting in the bank grew by tens of thousands of crores in a single 12-month period.
Furthermore, these retirees provide a 5 year context to prove this wasn't a fluke.
They note that over the last 5 years, the total fund has increased from 350,000 crore rupees to its present level of 457,000 crore.
So the retirees are establishing a clear, undeniable pattern of robust, consistent, and massive growth within the fund itself.
That sets the total pool, the vault is full. The pushback from opponents is really about cash flow, not available funds.
The money actually going out the door to pay the pensioners right now versus what the fund makes. How do the retirees address the cash flow argument?
They address it head on with a very simple comparison of outgoing versus accrual. The source states that the total yearly pension outgoing last year, meaning the money actually distributed to retirees, was 33,000 crore rupee.
But here is the critical data point. While 33,000 crore went out, the accrual, the interest and new money coming into the fund was 40,000 crore rupees.
So if we think of the pension fund as a giant water tank, right now 33,000 units are flowing out to the retirees each year, but 40,000 units are flowing in.
Okay, so the tank is already overflowing by 7,000 units a year, generating a massive surplus before we even talk about giving these seniors a raise.
Spot on. Okay, explain to me the estimated cost of the actual updation the retirees are fighting for.
According to their own calculations, if you implement an average increase in pension of about 20% across the board at the current level, it would cost approximately 6,000 crore rupees.
And that 6,000 crore figure is the linchpin of their final definitive mathematical calculation.
You take the current yearly outgoing of 33,000 crore rupees and you add the new burden of 6,000 crore rupees to fund the 20% updation.
That brings your new totally estimated yearly pension outgoing to 39,000 crore rupees.
With 40,000 crore flowing in yearly and 39,000 crore going out, the fund's annual outflow is fully covered.
Totally.
Their math shows a 1,000 crore surplus. Retirees argue banks can absorb the added load using only their yearly surplus interest.
without ever touching a single rupee of the massive 447,000 crore principal sitting in the vault.
Exactly. And armed with this specific math, the retirees turn their frustrations squarely toward the union leadership.
The retirees questions how UFBU leaders can possibly look at these numbers and still claim that the pension funds cannot bear the burden when the numbers tell a completely different story.
The retirees point out the allegation that union leaders kept pension updation as a mere residual issue for 30 long years.
3 decades of essentially putting it at the bottom of the meeting agenda. And they bring a truly fascinating point regarding the union's alleged logic about future retirees.
The retirees allege that these leaders are now claiming they need to restrict payouts today to protect the pension funds for future retirees, people who won't be retiring until the year 2045.
The retirees call that argument an absolute mirage.
They argue that prioritizing the hypothetical retirement of someone 20 years from now at the direct expense of a 75-year-old living in poverty today is a betrayal of the union's core purpose.
They contend that if these leaders cannot or won't protect the legally earned rights of present retirees, they certainly won't be able to take care of future ones.
Retirees allege this entire narrative is just a deception designed to misguide the current pensioners and protect institutional wealth over human well being.
Which brings us to the final and perhaps most resonant part of our deep dive. We have looked at the constitutional philosophy and we have walked through the intense mathematical battleground.
So, what does this all mean for that upcoming Thursday? The stakes of the March 12, 2026 hearing, at least according to the retirees who authored these documents, go far beyond just checking off a box on a legal docket or clearing a backlog.
The retirees view this as a truly historic opportunity to redefine the social contract. They argue that a decisive positive direction from the Supreme Court on this day won't merely be a legal judgment recorded in the textbook.
It's much more than that.
It will provide tangible, immediate financial stability and dignity to the lives of lakhs of families across the country.
Which has been tested by all those delays.
Exactly. It will serve as vital proof that despite the agonizing delays and the endless date after date cycles, justice can still be meaningful and restorative when it finally arrives.
The human element is what makes the MC Singla case so gripping and why it is compelling.
It is fundamentally about whether a society can offer its senior citizens more than indefinite postponements and waiting.
The retirees are demanding that March 12th becomes the day. The answer to that question is finally and unequivocally no.
It is a profound, unyielding demand for recognition. No more waiting, no more institutional excuses, no more date after date.
It means something real to them.
It reflects a deep hope that the law will finally honor their decades of work. They're asking the Supreme Court to affirm that their past labor still holds value.
Which leaves us with one final thought for you to mull over as you go about your day.
Both retirees' camps on social media focus heavily on securing the rights of pensioners who've spent 30 or 40 years being unfailingly loyal to a single public sector institution.
If you spend decades sitting at one desk for one employer who is responsible for ensuring your golden years are actually golden, it is a complex, massive puzzle, not to mention existential threat, when that employer failed to honor something as fundamental as a pension.
Priya, thank you so much for providing such compelling and thought-provoking points for us to explore. It has been an absolute pleasure unpacking them with you. Until next time, keep diving deep.